This is a video for class 10 where we are discussing a pronoun which is the pronoun E expressed by the letter Y or Y. Now, I have included this in the series on pronouns, okay, but I have just touched upon it there when it comes to your exam point of view. In this video, I'm going to be explaining it in a little bit more depth, okay. Now, this topic is also taught by certain schools in the 9th standard. So, 9th standard students, if your school is teaching you this at this level, it's great if you could watch this video as well. So the pronoun E, it is an adverbial pronoun. Now understand what an adverbial pronoun is. The other pronouns that you have done mostly, that is your subject pronouns, your direct objects, indirect objects, they are all personal pronouns because they relate to persons. Okay, you replace persons using those pronouns, whereas with this, you are not replacing persons. You are replacing things like places, quantities, okay, thoughts, things like that. So it is translated roughly as there or of it. It has no one translation. We cannot ascribe one translation to it. So we give it many translations like there, of it, about it, and so on. Okay. Now, before we go to see when it is used, you need to see how it is used, and by how I mean the placement rules. There are three situations of placement. One is when you just have a single verb in the sentence, then the pronoun gets placed before that verb. So for example, you have in this sentence nous y allons, where allons is the single verb, e is placed before it. So we go there, nous y allons. If you have one conjugate and one full verb, then the pronoun gets placed before the full verb. So nous pouvons y aller. Can you see how pouvoir is conjugated here as pouvons? Aller is the full verb. Whenever you have a full verb in the sentence, the pronoun is placed before it. So nous pouvons y aller. We can go there. And you have a third situation where you have one auxiliary and one participle, which for you right now is only the passé composé. So in that situation, you have to place the pronoun before the auxiliary. So nous y sommes allés. We went there. So if you have one auxiliary, one participle, the pronoun is placed before the auxiliary. Now something that you need to note is this pronoun E is represented by the letter Y or Y. Now it functions as a vowel. As you know, the Y sometimes goes as a vowel, okay, because it gives that E sound. So if you have a situation of where you have to place that Y or the E immediately after je, it does not happen as je E. It happens as J, J apostrophe Y. You have to treat the Y just like a vowel, and when you have the E clashing with the vowel, you have to delete the E and replace it with an apostrophe. Now, the first use of this pronoun E is when you're replacing a place that is introduced by a place preposition. You know your place prepositions now. It can be a or any of its contracted forms, for example, o, a la, o, aux, and so on. Any of the other place prepositions, on, chez, dans, sur, except the place preposition de. You do not replace the place preposition de with E. Okay, you will see that in the next video when we discuss on. Okay, so all the place prepositions, when they are followed by a place, they are replaced using E, except the place preposition the, which means from. So les chats dorment sur le tapis. The cats are sleeping on the carpet. So les chats y dorment. Single verb, it is placed before the single verb. The cats are sleeping there. Alex est malade, il vient d'aller chez le docteur. Alex is sick, he's just gone to the doctor. So chez le docteur is a place. So you will place your pronoun is E and you have to place it. Now you have one conjugated, one full. Place it immediately before the full verb, which is here. So il vient d'y aller. Can you see how the de has become the apostrophe? Because of the Y. Then je suis allé en France. I went to France. This is again talking about a place. So you have to replace it with Y, that is E. And where do you place it now? Because this is passé composé, it has to come before the auxiliary. It will be placed here. And when you get je and E together, it does not become je E, it becomes J, J apostrophe Y. The second use of the pronoun E is when you're replacing an indirect object that is introduced by a. Now this indirect object has to be an object, literally an object, for it to be replaced by E. It cannot be a person. If you have a situation where you have a or any of its contracted forms followed by a person, you will not use E. You will have to use an indirect object pronoun which is different. Okay, so elle pense à leur travail. She thinks about her work. So a followed by an indirect object gets replaced with E. So elle y pense. They think about it. Okay, so can you see here now how the meaning of E has changed? Previously we were saying E means there. Now the meaning has changed. It has become of it or about it. Okay. Tu réponds au téléphone ou je dois répondre au téléphone. So this is a contracted form of a followed by a noun, an object. So you can use E here. So instead of saying telephone twice, the second time you can just use E. Now where will you place it? This is the first verb here. Look at the clause, okay, not at the sentence. Only look at the clause. So the first verb here is conjugated, the verb. The second verb répondre is in full. So you will have to place it before the full verb here. Tu réponds au téléphone ou je dois y répondre? Are you answering the telephone or should I answer it? So here this E takes another meaning, which is it. J'ai réfléchi aux problèmes internationaux. I was reflecting about international problems. Now this is again contracted form of a followed by a noun. So you have to use E. This is a passé composé sentence, so you place it before the auxiliary. J'y ai réfléchi. I was thinking, I was reflecting over it. Okay, so you can see many different meanings that E takes. We cannot ascribe one particular meaning to it. Now, the first special case that we have is the negative sentence. What do you do in the negative sentence? What is your addition in the sentence? You have an extra ne and you have an extra pas, plus, jamais, whatever your negative word. Now, in case of the negative, the pronoun will continue to follow its original rule. Don't be thrown off by the fact that you have a no in the sentence. Continue to follow the rules of placement. Tu ne vas pas partir pour Londres. So this is a place now. You're not going to go to London. You're not going to leave for London. You will place the E now where? Since you have one conjugated, one full, you have to place it before the full. Do not be bothered by the negation. It does not make a difference. Tu ne vas pas y partir. You will not leave there or you will not go to that place. Okay? John ne pense jamais à ses études. John never thinks about his studies. So now don't be thrown off by the no and the jamais. Just think about this is a followed by a noun. So you have to use E. This is just a single verb, so you have to place it immediately before the verb. It will become John n'y pense jamais. John never thinks of it. John never thinks about it. Okay. Again, just like je becomes J apostrophe before the Y, NE will also become N apostrophe before the Y. The second special case is the imperative. Now, in case of the imperative, the pronoun Y is placed immediately after the imperative verb. Okay. Only in the imperative case, the pronoun does not go before the verb. It goes immediately after the verb and it is joined by a little hyphen. So, aller chez le coiffeur, go to the barber. So, aller y, go there with a hyphen in between. The E has to be placed after the verb. Okay. And in the doubly special case that if it is an ER verb that you have in the imperative, what is the rule in the imperative is that the ER verbs drop their S in the to form. So when you are replacing any place with E, okay, in the imperative for an ER verb in the to form, the dropped S, the S which you had initially dropped here, returns when you replace with the pronoun E. So va au magasin is go to the shop. So this au magasin can be replaced with E because it is a place being introduced by a. And also since this is an imperative of an ER verb in the to form, that is aller, the S comes back when you are replacing with the pronoun Y. So it is vas-y. Okay, the S also has to come back. Don't forget about the hyphen. So this is the long and short of the pronoun E. Thank you for watching. Next time we'll be looking at the pronoun en.